Undertale is a game that almost everyone has heard of, and one of the few games that everyone has played. Well, almost. So I have a confession to make. Until recently, I had never played Undertale. I ended up playing Deltarune in mid-2020. Mainly because it was a free game that wasn't one of those anime games that make me want to call the police. Then I realized something. I knew nothing about Undertale. I mean, I know the music, and I could name some of the characters. Oh, there's no doubt. I'm naming him Greg. But other than that, I knew nothing. However, most importantly, I don't know what the fan base was like back in 2016. And quite frankly, I want to keep it that way. That's a whole can of worms I don't even want to get within 20 feet of. I wasn't paying attention in 2016 because I was 14 at the time. And I was too busy playing Call of Duty Black Ops 3. And occasionally playing Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie. God, I hate that title. However, I did end up buying it because even after all this time, it was only $10. And originally I was just going to play it, and then review something else. Then I realized something. I'm in a pretty interesting spot when it comes to this game. Mainly because I have as much experience with this game as someone who has been in cryosleep for 8 years with music on in the background. Okay, so now that I have your attention, you know that whole I have never played Undertale thing I said like 2 minutes ago?
I lied.
I played it back in November of 2020, back when I was in college, a time when I played Dead by Daylight and For Honor religiously, which is to say I played it when my mental health was at an all-time low. I got to the part where you meet Papyrus and the Dead by Daylight update was done, and I stopped playing. And looking back on that moment, I consider it to be the worst decision of my life. I think this works as a good intro, and spoilers ahead for Undertale. Oh, and one more thing. While the criticism I have is real criticism, I'm going to be exaggerating a little bit. I normally wouldn't say that because most games I want to talk about in the future are made by companies that lie for fun or whose employees are too busy harassing women to make a good, worthwhile game. Undertale was practically made by two people in their free time, and I think it deserves a little less of my sarcasm. Also, this review has gone through many rewrites and changes, so if it sounds like it's all over the place, I'm sorry. I want to stop thinking about the funny skeleton game. Okay, so we're all on the same page? Good. Kings, queens, and non-binary royalty. We meet again, and I have made the worst decision. Second worst. Third worst decision of my life, and decided to review Undertale. The story of Undertale is a little weird, because there are technically hundreds of possible different endings, but I'm going to be talking about the two main story paths of Pacifist and No Mercy. I'm not doing the neutral run, because the only difference between my Pacifist and neutral run was I didn't go see Undyne. Why?
Ouch! Ow! Ow! Come here, let me be friends.
The Pacifist story takes your normal RPG story of saving the world from monsters and flips it on its head. You are a human child who falls into Blackreach from Skyrim. Down in the underground, you find monsters that were cast down here as punishment after losing war with the humans, sealed behind what is known as the creative name of the Barrier. As you make your way through this strange new world, you will meet monsters that want to steal your soul, but you teach them the power of pacifism and friendship, or something like that. As you make your way to the Barrier, you come face to face with the king of the monsters, Asgore, who wants to break the barrier and wage war on humans again. How does he plan to do this? Using the soul of dead children. Like FNAF. As for what happens after that, you teach Asgore the power of pacifism, and then things get complicated. I will say, the pacing of the Pacifist and Neutral run is a little weird. Not bad per se, just weird. The story goes from, I'm on a game show with a gay calculator, this game is awesome, to I'm fighting a time demon and have carpal tunnel in about 2 hours, bar any unforeseen skill issues. But it's not as bad as the No Mercy run. Now, what did I think of the story? It's pretty good. I was expecting to have a little bit more of an emotional response given the hype of this game, but I am going to assume it either has to do with the complete emptiness I feel deep within me, or because I knew what I had to do next. The No Mercy run, or as the community calls it, the Genocide run, is the more mainstream RPG story, and the one that I am more accustomed to. Because if you put me in a dark, dreary place where the sun doesn't shine, throw in some soulless monsters, and give me a heart-shaped WMD, I would make that place uninhabitable for centuries. The story of the No Mercy run is that you are a player, or a gamer. The story of the No Mercy run is that you are a player, playing a video game, deciding not to engage whatsoever with the story, instead acting like a complete monster, going out of your way to kill every single thing that moves. And what do you get for doing this? A deep feeling of regret, early arthritis, and the game forever labeling you a menace to society.
Now, this is show business.
The one thing I always heard about Undertale before I played it was that the characters were great. And while I agree with that, the characters are a little bit simpler than I was expecting. Toriel is caring. Sans is a prankster, mostly. Papyrus is Germa. While they do change as the story goes on, it isn't as much as I thought. But then again, the game is about 8 hours roughly. I can't expect too much. Now, you're probably wondering who my favorite character is. Well, I'm very particular when it comes to my favorite characters. It's a character wears armor, double points if they never take it off, or if they are a robot. Instant favorite character. And ever since Atomic Hearts came out, I have to explain I don't like robots that way. I like Master Chief, Samus, the Iron Golem, Warforged, Silver Chariot, Doom Guy, and Rob is one of my top 3 characters in Smash Bros, which is the equivalent of saying I commit war crimes. So I thought Undyne was pretty cool. At least, until he showed up. Yeah! I love Mettaton, and they really did him dirty by not having him in the ending. Come on, he's hot. Maybe I'm not so different from the Atomic Hearts fans. That being said, all of the characters are well written, and the side characters have more personality than every character in a Bethesda game combined, which 95% of the characters in those games are glorified target practice.
They asked me how well I understood theoretical physics. I said I had a theoretical degree in physics. They said, welcome aboard.
The game.
Now, it might strike you to be this far into a video and just getting into the gameplay of a video game. That's because I think the gameplay is just okay. Now, of course, the different routes have varying gameplay. Pacifist Run is interesting when it comes to gameplay. When it comes to the overworld gameplay, it mostly consists of puzzle solving, which is alright. I'm not really a puzzle guy, not because they aren't well made, but because I am stupid. Which is ironic, because COD Zombies is my favorite game of all time, which has puzzles that consist of playing the piano to translating cuneiform, and that is on the same map. As for combat, it is also sort of like a puzzle, with a little bit of a twist, by having to solve it before your enemy atomizes you, which makes it a little bit better, because there is more on the line than looking like an idiot. As for the bullet hell sections, they're okay. Your hitbox has all the speed and mobility of an actual human heart, which makes it really hard to dodge attacks, but I suppose it adds to the difficulty, not to mention the Pacifist Run. What? But I suppose it adds to the difficulty, and on top of that you have a grand total of 20 hit points, which in a boss battle is roughly about 3 hits away from death. But hey, at least it's better than the...
Oh, would you look at that? There's a member of the local wildlife with us now.
The gameplay of the No Mercy Run is a complete slog to get through. It's like walking into a Chick-fil-A wearing a pride pin, as the whole thing turns into one fist fight after another, and it sucks. The combat is terrible, and not to mention the god-awful controls that you have to do while dodging attacks, and it wouldn't be so much of a problem if you had only a few amounts of battles that you had to do, but since you constantly have to look for something to kill, which artificially extends the runtime by at least 4 hours. And it's not like the non-boss fights are hard, but having to pace back and forth like you're in a padded room gets really old really fast. Then we get to the Sans fight. This is where every single problem I have with the combat comes together. Okay, that's harsh. Let me talk about what I like about this fight. I like the difficulty, which means I have to say, whoa, this is like Dark Souls. I love Dark Souls. The terribly slow controls come to screw you over in the worst possible ways I have ever seen in a video game. The actual attack really shows how boring it is when it does nothing, and the fight goes on for nearly an hour, and you only progress when you attack. So to get anywhere, you have to swing and miss over and over, like a limp-wristed buffoon or a Fallout 2 character. And you better use healing items effectively, because if you don't, then you know what happens next.
My end is now!
Yep, I still love this fight, no matter how much it annoys me. The way it mixes up the boring fights by having to juggle your menu options, along with very awesome looking attacks and visuals. Now, as for the No Mercy Run as a whole, I hate it. Now, I might have a bad opinion, but I think the style is a little overrated. Wait. Maybe just because the whole "it looks like Earthbound" thing has been done to death by now, but I personally think it's because of nostalgia. Not that there's anything wrong with being nostalgic. This whole channel has been about nostalgia. Stronghold Legends was the first RTS game I played, and Pokemon Leaf Green was my first Pokemon game, which I still have my original cartridge. Anyway, I'm not nostalgic for games like Earthbound. My first console was a PS2, and one of the first games I have vivid memories of playing was Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie. I'm nostalgic for games like Ultra Kill, which I haven't played yet. Well, that didn't help my case. I don't think the design is bad. It's really good. But I always see people talking like it's the greatest art design of all time, and I don't agree with that. This is not me saying that Toby Fox and Timmy Chang did a bad job. Timmy, is that how you pronounce it? It's just overblown in my opinion. And it isn't as good as this painting of a skeleton smoking a fat pack. Put that in Deltarune, you coward. Now that's not to say also that I don't like pixel art. I quite like it. It allows your imagination to fill in the gaps, and some of these shots are stunning, which is incredible art design, and the simplistic look makes it look timeless. I think all the character designs are pretty good as well. They have that whole thing where all the good games have, where you can identify a character by their silhouette. I like the little details, like how Undyne the Undying's light is a spear, or how many cool little Easter eggs are in the design of the amalgamate, or how extremely attractive Mettaton is. Most of the bosses are what they should be, intimidating. Except for Sans, who his whole thing is to not be intimidating, and all of them fit the character. Well, almost. The final bosses of the pacifist and neutral runs are not great. Photoshop Flowey is just weird and unpleasant to look at. And while Azrael God of Hyperdeath or whatever is fine, it just hurts my eyes and I feel like I'm on the verge of a stroke. But hey, at least they have good music. Saying the music of Undertale is good is like saying furries like computer coding. Not that there's anything wrong with either of those, it's just an observation. And that includes the music that you don't hear very often because most people, myself included, only use the battle music, and the rest is kind of forgotten, which is a little bit of a shame. Like I said, I knew the music before actually sitting down and playing the game, and after, I think the music is much better now. It gives context that I didn't have before. While the song of Undyne the Undying is awesome sounding on its own, I now fully resent it because I only think about how I'm about to get curb stomped by a game that has an autistic skeleton. Now, I personally think there are two main reasons why this soundtrack is so good. Of course, I don't have any music theory or anything like that to back it up. I only know how to read music and play piano, and that is where my music knowledge ends. The two reasons are, one is the use of leitmotifs, which a leitmotif, for those who don't know, is just music nerd speak for theme. It is easily recognizable. Like, let me give you an example. I'm going to play a few notes from one of the songs and see if you can guess who it is. Secondly, all the music is really good at giving off a certain feeling. Save the World is a climactic battle. Snowden is like a quaint local band playing in a nearby restaurant. Timmy Village feels like I'm stroking out, it's great. Of course, the No Mercy run takes all the good vibes that aren't battle themes and ruin them because this game can't just wag its finger at you for not playing it a certain way. It has to punch you in the face instead. Undertale is a game that I can say with all confidence that almost everyone has played, and after playing it, I can understand why. While it definitely isn't my favorite game, and I personally prefer games with more action in them, I respect it for doing what it set out to do, subverting the classic RPG tropes and expectations. Is it one of my favorite games of all time? No. Is it a really good game? Yes. Is it one of the greatest games of all time? I will confidently say it makes me excited for Deltarune and whatever absolute nonsense comes out of Toby Fox in the future. However, I saved my biggest compliment for last. This is the only game that I can play without having something on in the background. While that might sound strange, let me explain. When I normally play games, my mind runs around in circles, so I usually put something on in the background because I can't stand the idea of having my own thoughts get through. And for some reason, whether it be the music, the gameplay, the writing, or the story, or a combination of all of those things, I can 100% focus on just the game without having my own mind torment me, which, just like this game, is a special thing that only happens once in a blue moon. Until we meet again. So this took longer than I thought, and this isn't Age of Mythology, so I guess I have a little explaining to do. I started working on this in early April and worked until May. I then went on vacation to the UK for 2 weeks and spent the rest of May recovering from a trip halfway around the world. I then started to get back to working until I had what could be best described as a month-long mental breakdown and spent most of July going through the non-Euclidean bureaucratic hellscape known as the American mental health system. Thanks, Ronald Reagan. I decided from now on to give myself a little bit more peace of mind. I will put subtitles in every video because I hate misunderstanding and I suck at talking. Anyways, I pretty much had the same schedule as the Supreme Court, but at least what I do is higher quality. I had to rush this one out so fast that I didn't even have time to come up with a Frasier reference that made sense, but I swear I'll have a better schedule, and hopefully better quality. So, until we meet again.